Right.
Okay.
Craig is on. Craig is online.
Well, welcome everybody to the Aladdin DAO community call for June 7th, 2023. We are excited to we got a bunch of stuff to cover today, so we'll try to jump right into it. I guess the first thing that's probably the most pressing issue that we need to talk about, kind of like right off the bat, was with Aladdin. And we've got a couple of snapshot votes that are ending. Yeah, like in less than 50 minutes.
Yeah, in an hour. So like I potentially before the end of this call. We've got a couple of votes. By the way, I'm gonna have to fake it till I make it, since I missed a lot of this action as I was out the last couple of weeks. So let me know if I say anything that is just asinine. All right, just give me a wink or a nudge or something.
Well, I'm excited that you'll be the one doing it instead of me that's been doing it for the last 2 weeks. I'm just faking it as much as I can.
Did you get anybody to co-host for you? Did you convince Paul to show up on the stage?
Yeah, he was very helpful,
right.
but
the
pressure's on, the pressure's on.
Exactly.
I can't, who can substitute for Kruger, right?
Nobody. Exactly. It's the truth. My flavor of bullshit is unique in the world, and I'm here to bring it back to the community. Okay, you are correct. We have two snapshot votes that are ending imminently, 11 a.m. Eastern. That's where I am. But so that's like 45 minutes is how much time you have to vote on this. They are both passing by an overwhelming margin, although the quorum is not huge. 11 and 12 million XALD voting at this point in time. So we can go just like a quick talk. I think these were both proposals that were put forward by the community. Is that right, K-Metz?
Correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. It's starting to the dynamics of governance are starting to starting to poke through a little bit as we get a little bit more like community driven stuff happening, and in addition to the team driven stuff. So we have the Aladdin DAO have staking rewards. Yeah. Cut the staking rewards in half. It's hard to communicate that. So the proposal is to take the XALD staking reward. So now I don't want to go too deep into the ALD tokenomics. I mean, ALD, the current iteration of the ALD tokenomics were developed some time ago. I mean, late 2021, and they use this rebasing model as a way to distribute, like we have a limited amount of token inflation, and the newly minted tokens that are minted at this fixed inflation rate are distributed to people who are staking the tokens, who are staking the existing tokens. And the idea there is that you take your token stakers as you inflate the number of tokens, which is in theory happening in lockstep with increases in the value of the treasury and the value of the protocol in general. You're just helping to concentrate the value of the protocol with the people who are staking the token, right? That's kind of, there's like we could get into the weeds on that a lot, but that's like the TLDR is, help to concentrate the value of the protocol growth on the people who are staking the token. And we're using the rebasing method for doing that, right? And it's a low rebasing rate, about 10%. So up until this point, all the rebase payments have been given to the XALD, like the ALD stakers, which is, just basically, as I explained, is just giving them that inflation. So the proposal here is to cut the total staking rewards in half. So the total inflation is going to be cut. It's going to stay the same, but half of the inflated tokens will be distributed to the stakers, and then the other half are going to be diverted into an investment fund, which importantly is going to be called the Aladdin Fund. I'm not sure why that's important, but it's called out very clearly in the snapshot. So we're going to create this sort of fund for future use, and then take half of those rewards that are currently just being kind of distributed to the stakers. In parallel with that, we are looking at the introduction of a VE token model. So this is obviously, like, we've been talking for some time about revamping the ALD tokenomics, and we have become, like, at Aladdin, we have gone in pretty heavily on this idea of VE tokenomics, just partly because there are a lot of aspects of it that make good sense, right? First of all, you want to make sure from the number one consideration is that governance decisions are made by people who have a long-term interest in the protocol, right? It shouldn't be possible to have governance power to make a short-term decision and then like dump after you've like if you creating a short-term pump and then dumping. You want to make sure that that's like not possible, so that the people making the governance decisions are forcibly exposed to the long-term, like 4 years long value of that protocol. So that's one important thing. Another thing that I kind of like about VE is because it's optional, you've got this basically it creates these two classes of shares, right? You can be an ALD holder without or for any vote lock token, you might want to say you can be a holder of that token without locking them and still basically gain or lose with the value of the protocol, just like holding any regular share, but you don't get voting rights unless you choose to lock, right? And then the lock tokens give you those voting rights, and you're basically compensated for your governance services by a share of the platform revenue, right? So you still have that ability to like buy the tokens and you know, like trade them or you know, get exposed to the long-term growth of the protocol without locking. You can still buy and sell that token as the value of it changes. But if you choose to lock for a long period of time, then you get this governance power, and you're compensated for your services with a share of the revenue. So bring it all back in here. So we're looking at wrapping the existing rebasing token in a VE token model. So essentially what we would have is we would take the existing XALD, which is earning these staking rewards, and we would allow people to lock those in the VE style. It seems like there's some of the particulars would still need to be worked out. But the main question here in the snapshot seems to be, should we introduce the vote escrow model around wrapped XALD? And so again, that is passing with a really high percentage right now, 100% passing. Nobody voted against it, but on 11 million XALD. So fairly low quorum at this point, but no dissenting voices up to this point. What are your thoughts, K-Mats? What do you think?
Yeah, I think they both have had a good bit of discussion in the forum, a lot of good back and forth from the community members. You know, the intention for both of these proposals is to basically create long-term sustainability, to encourage alignment with Aladdin DAO in general. You know, that's sort of the intention between the VE model and then the halving itself is sort of a sustainability model for basically, you know, helping you know, invest in other protocols that we're doing, or you know, reinvestment in the LP to ensure liquidity. And so like Kruger is saying, you know, there's still, you know, once these pass, you know, that's obviously the implementation. So there's going to be like some nuance in terms of you know, the particulars and whatnot. But ultimately, you know, these drive you know, the long-term people that are aligned with the protocol to, you know, benefit from these changes. And so so it'll be interesting to see how everything winds up, and get out there and vote. You don't have much time left.
Yeah, you got 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And so by the time you're listening to a recording of this, sorry, too late.
Yeah.
It's only the early birds in here that are getting the nudge from us.
Yep.
And so I'm looking. So under this like AIPO5 discussion in the forum, basically there's like three different kind of main breakdowns. So the XALD reward halving and the vote escrow XALD, like implementing vote escrow, are two, and then the third is looking for a curve gauge for ALD and ETH, and it is a good time to do that. That's as a fact, I think that Tao has actually written a proposal that he is going to be that he's going to post in the Curve Governance Forum to get that ALD ETH curve gauge listed, and that's going to help a lot. It's going to give us another lever for sort of managing the liquidity of ALD, and all of this is really just edging towards trying to set up this the tokenomic structure of Aladdin itself as the sort of parent company slash investor slash incubator slash, like basically Aladdin is an investment DAO. And we've had to do like a semi pivot into building protocols instead of just buying or investing in them as of a while ago. And so now we've kind of become this like we've started creating this ecosystem, right? But as I've said many times, and as we've talked about, each one of these ecosystem pieces, right, Concentrator and Clever and now F of X, they're all meant to work towards a certain level of autonomy, right? Which means sustainability individually for each one, even though they all work together quite nicely. But also it does mean that they will eventually grow apart somewhat from Aladdin. Aladdin, of course, retains that big controlling stake in them. But over time, the idea is that these individual properties will become more independent, and then Aladdin starts to shift its with regards to like Concentrator. As Concentrator becomes more independent, Aladdin starts to shift into more of that main investor kind of board member kind of role.
Couldn't have said it any better, sir. Totally.
As I finished speaking, I realized I'm not sure that I really even understand what I just said. But
welcome to my world. All right. So the ALD ETH gauge proposal should be up on the Curve forums here probably next couple days or so.
Yeah, the team had a look at Tao's draft, and it's a pretty straightforward. It should be a pretty straightforward ask, right? Aladdin has been in the Curve ecosystem for quite a while, and we've had several of these gauges passed already, and so I think it makes a lot of sense to go ahead with this. I'm not expecting a lot of pushback, but I guess we don't really know until we get into the Curve forum.
Yep, for sure. All right, should we dive into the protocol of the moment?
Du jour, yeah. Let's do it. Tell me, what have you guys been up to while I was gone?
Oh, nothing. We just created some, a token offering that was lasted all of 60 seconds.
Oh my goodness, 3 blocks, right, between the two. Rounds.
It was 3 blocks for the first one, so it was very leisurely. You could take your time.
Right, you didn't have to get in the first block. You could wait for the second or third. Yeah.
And then it was a lovely 59-minute wait for the second one, which was 2 blocks. And so
yeah, well, and it was as we've talked about in the past, particularly launching tokens like, and we're not talking meme coins here, right? Like, we've got to remember, on the Aladdin side, we are looking to launch sustainable products that are going to be around for a long time, and launching those into a bear market is tricky, right? Because you need to. It's really hard to anticipate the level of attention that you're going to get, right? And I think that if I might, just based on my sort of what I was essentially an outside observer for this process, it seems like the amount of attention the F of X offering got was pretty significantly more than we thought it might be.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the token offering, I don't know how most other protocols approach this. I kind of mildly do. I don't participate in a lot of other token offerings, but I mean, this is essentially a bootstrapping event, right? I mean, it's just and not a huge amount of bootstrap. We're not trying to get 1,000 ETH or anything, or 5,000 ETH or whatever, but just enough to like seed liquidity and get the protocol launched. And that's the goal. It's like there, and so there's a lot of I can certainly empathize with all the frustration involved from folks involved, and we'll certainly try to do a thing or two here or there to tweak that. But ultimately, it's just to get things going.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point. I mean, again, that it is something of a side effect of the fact that we are like it's not an open-ended token raise. And in fact, I think you can make the argument that an open-ended like massive token raise, whether we've got the interest at that moment for it or not, it's not a healthy long-term thing, right? Like we are we are intentionally to a certain extent trying to avoid the like massive pump and dump cycle that often accompanies these kinds of token launches in trying to produce something that main that maintains its value, that achieves some sort of a value that's associated with the protocol that we're building and that maintains it. But as you say, the key point here for these kinds of token raises is that they have a very specific job to do with regards to bootstrapping the protocol, right? We need liquidity. We need to be able to seed liquidity into the FFX protocol. We need to be able to seed ETH in order to mint the very first FETH and XETH, so that as the first real users come in, there's like liquidity. They can. We're not starting from zero. When there's like really really low liquidity, there are a lot of like arbitrage and exploitative games that bigger players can play. And so by seeding liquidity into those pools before basically as step number one, as soon as they're launched, we kind of shortcut a lot of those games and we make sure that the earliest users have as smooth an experience as possible. So it's really, it's a bunch of ETH that was very much needed to get the protocol off the ground. And that's the amount that we raised. But by raising such a targeted amount, you always run the risk of, if the demand is higher than the supply, that and it's limited, then the sellout happens very, very quickly, right? And that's what we saw.
Yeah, and from just kind of like the folks that have been involved in the community and weren't able to get any tokens, from what I saw, they were pretty a little disappointed, but at the same time kind of like realized, well, there's lots of other opportunities to get FX tokens and participate, in the future. And so they were kind of, being really great and being in the Discord and kind of like, educating folks on that regard as well. Most of the folks I saw that were frustrated, I had never seen them in the Discord or the community or whatever before. So it was like,
Yeah.
what were you going to do with this token when you got it anyway? So
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're launching a token in the crypto world. There's going to be there's always going to be some level of chaos associated with that. But I think you guys did an amazing job of having it. Like, again, it was limited. There were plenty of people who wanted some and didn't get some. But as you say, for everybody who's part of the community, this is not our first rodeo. And I think anybody who's been around and has seen how we've done it with Clever and with Concentrator, there are a lot of opportunities to be a part of this and to get your hands on some tokens if you want them, more than just participating in the IDO. It's a very small, it's a small fraction of the tokens that are even sold via the IDO. The vast majority of them are emitted to farmers. And so
Yep.
The philosophy of Aladdin protocols is, if you the Aladdin protocol, in this case FFX, pays for your support, and that may mean farming, like economic support by providing LP in one farm or another. You can earn these FX tokens, and that's a trade, right? You are providing economic value to the protocol. The protocol is compensating you with the tokens. Then there's the whole booster program, which I think we're going to get into in a second. As another way that people, and that is a no capital required way to earn some tokens. So if you want to get your hands on some FX tokens even cheaper than the people who managed to get in on the IDO, I mean, you can you've got that option. You've got to put in a little bit of sweat equity.
Yeah, if there's one person who should be, the most disappointed and most upset about it, is our vivacious founder, Charlene. Poor Charlene. Oh my gosh. Hopefully we can get her some tokens here pretty soon.
Yeah, we're gonna start tipping. We're gonna start tipping her in FFX for every great idea. And then the team's not gonna have any left. We're gonna give them all away.
Yeah.
Okay, so the IDO was crazy fast. Lots of great interest. I mean, really, I think that, for the purposes of the discussion here in the community, I think that, this is whether you got your hands on some tokens or not. This is a great news story because what it's saying is that there is attention. Hopefully we can take this as a validation of the idea of the model, right? Like that people are, more than just speculators, that there are people looking to take a position in this because they see the value of what we're proposing with f of x, right? This whole really like a really new way of minting a stable-ish, a low volatility coin that can potentially really change the landscape of crypto, that can potentially really overtake some of these stable coins that are tied to fiat tokens and that are tied to real world entities, right? Like that's really where the whole discussion started, was how do we get a token that we can use as a stable coin, even if it's not exactly a fiat stable coin? How do we get that low volatility, but like anchored in that Ethereum, in that crypto world? How do we avoid the risk of exposure to banks that can fail or be subject to like surprise regulatory actions, all of a sudden, and suffer these kind of, peg issues that are not really actually associated with any real part of the mechanism, that they're just purely associated with the like, this entity that sits kind of in the real world at the interface between crypto and like a sovereign banking system, for example.
Those darn Americans again.
It's the Americans all the time. I mean, but to be fair, I mean, the idea here is really, the idea really behind crypto in general is to try to minimize the centralized risk, right?
Yep.
Like that was the like block number one on Bitcoin. Like this is all about, this whole story of crypto started with I'm paraphrasing obviously, but like with the idea of trying to eliminate these centralized kinds of risks. And so f of x really does cut down the centralized risk a lot. And so there's a possibility this is a big deal. And then the XETH token that creates this fun on-chain leverage, as a byproduct, which could arguably have even stronger demand, especially especially in the beginning. It's a pretty impressive package, and I think that we can take from the fast token sale at least some amount of validation of that idea.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And now we, I guess starting tomorrow, people will be able to kind of start playing around with it a little bit.
That's right.
Testnet.
Yeah, this is a little different than what we've done in the past. So we are actually launching the first phase of the beta testing is going to be on Sepolia. On it's Sepolia, right? Not Sepolia?
I call it Sepolia. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's call it Sepolia for now. Hopefully, we don't sound silly. Is going to be launched on a testnet. So this is a little bit different than what we've done for Clever. You remember the beta period was exclusively on mainnet. So we have for f of x, we are launching a 2-phase beta, but it's going to be a lot shorter than what we did for Clever. We're looking at right now targeting the total beta period of about 4 weeks, with the first 2 weeks being based on testnet, and the second 2 weeks being the beta launch on mainnet. So that's going to be kicking off tomorrow on Sepolia. And so please stop by the Discord, get all the information that you need for connecting up to the testnet, and kick the tires over there, right? Like you can you can grab some ETH from a faucet and mint some fractional ETH and just kind of monkey around a little bit with those mechanisms. And by the way, also check out the interface. The team has been working hard on the f of x interface, and it's looking very, very sharp. We're going to be excited to see what it looks like in action and get the community's feedback on that as well, right? Like if there's information that you need that you don't have there, or something that is just like overwhelming or too much and you want to tweak, please, that's a big thing that we're looking for feedback from the community on here as well. So 2 weeks of testnet.
Yeah,
And then
just
go
one
Cameron.
one point of information about the testnet is I think there was a couple of links that went out on the Twitter thread. They're both great. You can get your Sepolia ETH from them. Just FYI, you can only get 0.5 Sepolia ETH per 24 hours. So go ahead and start, minting Sepolia ETH and playing around with it. But just keep that in the back of your mind as you go and get some from a testnet faucet.
Yeah, yeah, good point. Good point.
Mm-hmm.
But please do that. Do it though, and
Yeah.
kick the tires, and at the very least, it's bragging rights, right? You were, if you were on F of X before F of X was on mainnet, like that's
Yeah,
something.
back when F of X was indie before they went mainstream.
Yeah, exactly. Before F of X sold out. Listen, it's just, I think it's basically, if you take a picture of yourself clicking buy or clicking to mint some FETH on testnet, I think that is the equivalent approximately of a picture of yourself shaking hands with a president. And I think you put that like on your wall behind your desk, and then when people, when you're older, people come into your desk and, oh yes, that was the time I interacted with the F of X testnet contract. So
Oh boy.
after those 2 weeks, we are going to launch beta on mainnet, and we'll talk a little bit more about exactly what that means as the time gets closer. But that's going to be it's going to be a pre-liquidity beta before we start doing the farming emissions. There will be details associated with the mainnet beta phase that will come out a little bit closer to the time. But that's just to give you right now this picture of what we're looking at. There's going to be 2 weeks of testnet beta, 2 weeks of mainnet beta, and then we'll launch full liquidity in about a month. So middle of the summer, if you're in my hemisphere.
Yeah. Yep. Should be exciting. Looking forward to it.
Yeah,
It's
it's
gonna be fun to play
always,
around with it.
yeah, exactly. And see what kind of, I want to see what people do with it, what people think. I'm really curious to know how much of a hurdle we have to get over between the idea of a fiat peg stablecoin versus a low volatility version of ETH, right?
Yeah,
I'm
it's a paradigm shift for sure, right?
It is, and it's like it may happen slowly or quickly or what. I'm not really sure, but I think we're going to have to do a lot of talking about it in the community. And by the way, this is, we're going to talk about boosting in a second, but this is a big opportunity for boosters. To start talking a little bit about what is the functional difference between a low volatility token and a fiat stablecoin. Like why should anybody consider FETH to be a stable? Like how would you use it? How is it different? Like what risks are you exposed to with a centralized stablecoin that you're not exposed to with F of X? And vice versa, right? So I think this is just an amazing opportunity for the boosters to get out and start just kind of try to get the conversation going a little bit, right? Because I think what you're going to find is that a lot of people tend to categorize things as either fiat stablecoins or crypto.
Mm-hmm.
And FETH is really kind of, it falls in the middle. It's more of a gray area, right? Like it's mostly, all the volatility is measured in USD terms, and at 0.1 beta, it's a mostly USD tracking, but it's not pegged. And in fact, so a lot of the conversation I think is going to be around, well, like, do you actually need to be pegged to $1 with your stablecoin, or is it just mostly important that you don't suffer these like massive swings in volatility relative to it? So
yeah, it's interesting. We had a conversation last week with DeFi Cheetah and Winter Soldier, and those guys are about as knowledgeable as you can get in DeFi. And even with them, they found it very innovative, and it's going to be up to the community. It's going to be up to crypto in general to sort of like determine the ultimately how these get incorporated into the ecosystem. So should be interesting. So how people sort of like understand, like, well, maybe a fiat stable is just that escape from volatility, and that's what it's always been, and that's what you've always been seeking. And so
Hmm. Hmm.
I'll be curious to see sort of like the educational, dialogue
Side
that
of it,
comes
yeah.
out from it. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, as you may or may not know, K-Mets, we're not all in the United States, and so the
What?
value.
Are you kidding me? You're not
the
all
va-
here in Texas with me?
Look out your window right now, K-Mets. I'm waving.
Oh my God.
Um, no, well, but like, so the value of a USD pegged stable is, it's obviously not universally the same, depending on where you live. And I mean, obviously there's certain aspect to the US dollar that obviously is the world reserve currency, and everything, like, a lot of like international trade is measured in it. And so, certainly compared to some more like volatile global currencies, you probably would rather be holding US dollars. But is it the US dollar in particular that you want, or just that like general low volatility?
Right.
And I think that if we get into it, I think when you really start to get into it, I think a lot of people will find that it matters less that your token is worth exactly 1.30 dollars, and more that it's worth still about $1, 3 months from now and 6 months from now.
Or more, or that it's
Or
worth
more,
more.
yeah, or more.
Yeah.
But like plus or minus a couple of percent doesn't make a lot of difference necessarily to the
Right.
purpose of holding that stable in that crypto world. Or maybe it does, but my view is that it's probably that people are probably less needing of that perfect fiat peg, especially outside of the United States, and more needing of that low volatility, and that putting it together in the way that we have is maybe even a more optimal solution than that fiat peg.
I think FX might be just the perfect protocol for you, Kruger. It sounds
It
like
might
you're
be.
sold on it.
Yeah, well, I have a suspicion that I'm going to be being paid in FETH pretty soon, so I better like it.
I mean, that's the best both worlds then.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
perfect.
that's true.
Well, you know what? We might all be getting, those of us that contribute to the community might be getting paid in some FX tokens if we contribute to the booster program, which is going to be launching very shortly here. So maybe we can
Tell me more, K-Mets.
Oh, well, I'm so glad you asked. Okay. So just like Concentrator, just like Clever, we're going to be having a community booster program for the FX protocol. Couple of differences. Instead of just being over a year or 15 months or whatever, it's going to be over 3 years. So it's longer, and it's 3% of the entire protocol's tokenomics are basically aimed at sponsoring the community booster program. And so it'd be 1.5% the first year, 1% of all tokens the second, and then 0.5% the third.
And
And
that's
so
different, right?
yeah, because I think it's kind of been a linear distribution
That's right.
previously.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
so this is going to be, kind of front run everything. So a little bit. So everybody can, how do you get involved with the booster program? Well, I mean, we'll be putting out an article today that will kind of like outline it if it's new to you and you're not familiar with it. But essentially, you just get out there and just produce content, and let the community know about it. Post it in the Discord, and let the team know. And by golly, we'll add you to the list and make sure that you get added. And the votes will be, we'll try to do them. I think right now bi-monthly is kind of like working out well for us, or every other month, and so we'll have those votes, and we will basically it'll be VE FX holders, people that lock their FX tokens can vote, and then also because ALD or the Aladdin DAO will be getting their share, and we'll be locking those as well. I guess it'll be VEX ALD holders at that point will be able to vote as well.
Yeah, I guess that'll depend on the implementation timeline of the vote lock for ALD tokens. But whoever holds the governance value associated with ALD is going to control the FX tokens that Aladdin controls.
Yeah. So we'll be sending out more info. We'll send out a Twitter thread as well and an article, so everybody will get a heads up. But I believe if I haven't reached out to you yet, give me a shout. If you've produced some content, we want to make sure we get everybody that's put out some meaningful content involved. So and we're seeing a lot of new faces too, which is really great and helpful for the growth. So that's what this is all about: growing the pie for everybody.
Sounds good. And so I'll if I just jump in with the usual disclaimers for anybody who's not familiar with the booster program. As KMET says, you do not need to do anything special to be considered. And by considered, we mean, the team is not handing out these tokens, right? These tokens are being allocated by fair vote by token holders, which means everybody in the community who holds locked tokens are the ones who decide how these booster tokens are allocated. And so the team's job is just to try to make sure that everybody who has been out there generating content and talking about f of x and helping out in general is on the list. But once you're on the list, the team has done all they can do, and it's up to the token holders to vote for how the emissions are going to be allocated.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's it.
Yep.
And that's it. In general, it's and it's a great idea, by the way, and we've seen this in the past. And in fact, I think it was kind of your path and Subli's path to getting more involved with Aladdin, where good things happen when you reach out to other people who are boosting for the community and work together.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a really easy way to create alignment with folks and if you look at our tokenomics, like this is like sort of one of the ways that Aladdin tries to spread things out and basically make sure that there's no VCs dumping on you or whatever, or no huge token unlocks or anything like that. So this is it's really tried to aim to be sort of a I guess as grassroots as it possibly can be and democratic process. So
yeah, I mean we could get off the rails quickly into the philosophy here, but suffice it to say that the token protocols for the tokens for the protocol, I should say, are allocated based on value, like work that is valuable to the protocol, right? That's the fundamental idea, and that everything is, all of the offering is done in a open and permissionless way. That's kind of the general idea of building a network versus building a company, right? We're not out, there's no stage for these protocols that we're spinning up. There's no stage where we're out soliciting early investment, right? Aladdin, the DAO, is the early investor, right? Aladdin, the DAO, is basically is funding the development of these protocols. And then as the protocol launches, it has this token generation event, and then that's where the 30% allocation to Aladdin, which is locked, that's sort of how that dynamic works. Like the protocol pays Aladdin in this big share of its tokens for the support of building it up. And so then there's no, you can either look at it as there's no VC at all, or there's only one VC and it's Aladdin, the DAO themselves, and they can't dump on you because their policy is max lock all the time. So Aladdin gets its 30%, locks indefinitely, locks 4 years, and continues to re-up that lock and provide that governance sort of oversight, as well as harvest their share of the rev share, which comes back to the Aladdin protocol. So,
yep, working pretty good so far.
Mm-hmm.
So there you have it. So there's the booster program. You'll be hearing more about that very shortly. And then I guess we can go ahead and kind of move on to Concentrator and Clever, just to kind of sort of wrap things up.
Sure. Yeah, there's not too much to report here, I don't think.
No, we just have one item for Concentrator, really.
Mm-hmm.
You wanna
yeah,
talk
sure.
about that?
So we were reached out. Convex reached out to us in the last week and kind of to nudge us a little bit about AFXS. And if you check out AFXS on the Concentrator website, you'll see the yields. Let's see, where is it right now? It's under 7% right now on my interface. I don't know if that's out of date or not, but it's relatively low compared to the yield for CVX, FXS, single staking. So just for a little bit of context, when we launched AFXS, the auto compounding FXS token, it was the only way that we could back that auto compounder was in this LP, which is the CVX FXS FXS LP. That's a lot of letters. Basically, the LP for CVX FXS. That was the backing, and so we were harvesting the curve rewards associated with that, and that's what's auto compounding in AFXS. But that's no longer the best option. At the time, there was no single staking available. Single staking has now been launched for FXS, just CVX FXS directly, and if you're comparing it to A Curve, we use the CVX Curve single staking to back the A Curve token. And so Convex suggested that we should potentially change AFXS to be the equivalent, use the single staking CVX FXS for that. And the team kind of took a look at it, and it seems like a good idea and the right move. We can bump the APY up quite a lot. And I think that it's generally beneficial to Convex as well, because we will help, in the same way that A Curve helps support the CVX Curve peg, AFXS will help support the CVX FXS peg. And so they kind of benefit from us making that change as well. And so it seems like a good idea. Obviously, something like this is going to go to governance process in the community. But we're looking at launching that proposal pretty soon for people to take a look at, and I think it will be pretty uncontroversial, since it's a minor change in what's actually backing AFXS. Technical implementation, though, I'm not sure if there's going to be any hurdle there or not, since rolling out a harvester is pretty straightforward, but these compounders are there's probably going to be an audit cycle required for that. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. Charlene, do you want to comment?
We can upgrade AFXS from the existing strategy powered by CVX FXS LP, compounding into CVX FXS staking. Technically, I think everything should be fine. Just when we migrate the position, I think we should be careful of any MEV attack.
Right.
We'll use private node services for that.
Is there going to be an audit cycle required for that?
Yeah, of course. So I think, the process should be, given how many other things we are working on, to be 1 to 2 months.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So, if anybody's got thoughts on that and they want to sound off, in the Discord or wherever, you'll have a chance to provide that feedback if you like. I don't know if we're going to make a forum post for that or not. It's a pretty straightforward change, but we can potentially put something on the forum for it. But ultimately, it won't be implemented unless it passes governance. Look for that in the coming months.
Yeah, it looks like I've just pulled up Convex. It looks like their APR for CVX FX single-sided is like about 12.5%. So
right. Yeah.
Quite a bump up.
It's a big difference for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
And I think that in terms of Clever, we have nothing to share publicly about Clever right now. And so there's everything is kind of like ticking along, working as designed. And so nothing to update on that this week.
Yeah, the best case scenario, honestly.
That's right. No news is good news.
Yep, exactly.
Cool. So I think that takes care of our community call topics, except for our most important one.
Charlene.
The most important part is going to be very short and generic today.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I think the key message for this week is that good to see that things didn't break in May. I thought it would have broken in May. So watch out for July and August. I think it will come eventually. So where the market is trading and consensus poll show that the chance for another raise for June meeting is low, but there's still 25% of a chance out there. And there will be 25 to 50 basis points for July meeting. And that's a certain event, right? It's only the choice between 25 or 50, right? There's going to be a raise there for sure. So, and the job market data and the inflation data all support these decisions. Plus, we all know that Treasury will sell more bonds to fill their funding gap. And so in general, liquidity situation will be worse for the next 3 months. And we just see the news, Bank of Canada just raised another 25 basis points.
Woo!
So we're still
Sorry.
in the...
I just cheer when I hear the word Canada.
Yeah, we're still in the tightening cycle. So be patient and don't move too quickly before the final show is on. And on crypto side, we have all seen how resilient crypto has been to fight the TradFi world and to build the new orders. It's accumulating energy and hope it can exhibit the same level of resilience when liquidity becomes tighter in the next few months. That's it for this week.
All right, short and sweet, and
Okay.
and less doomy than usual. So that's a nice. That's a it's borderline bullish.
What less doomy?
Yeah,
doomy. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, the end of the world was moved out to July or August. So, you
That's
just
right.
enjoy your summer for now and, just have some
Exactly.
barbecues and
Correct.
I should
Correct.
have some barbecues. I'd love to have some barbecues, except it's so smoky outside my house. There's wildfires in Quebec are just anyway. I'm getting off topic. So thanks, Charlene, for a considerably sunnier macro update for this week. It'll be interesting to watch it all unfold. Really interesting to seeing this stuff in the last couple of days. How, obviously a ton of like very negative regulatory news hitting the wires, and watching the crypto sort of market react to that has, I don't pretend to know what I'm looking at, but to see such a quick recovery and after that initial kind of like panic drop, as you say, the resilience of the crypto market has been kind of surprising. I mean, again, we're pretty deep into the bear market. I know a lot of talking heads are kind of thinking that like doesn't matter so much how much worse the news gets because there aren't that many sellers left, but it's interesting to watch in any case.
Yep. Yeah, it's hard to I'm so glad I am not somebody that tries to trade this stuff because I would have been wrong 100% every day this week.
Yeah. That's I've learned my lesson. Luckily I didn't that was not one of my expensive lessons, but virtually every transaction I've made in the last 2 years has been a short-term bad move. So you can virtually I can pretty much set my watch to the price of something is going down tomorrow if I bought some today. And so
So you're the Aladdin Dow Jim Cramer signal.
That's right. Yeah.
You are the perfect reverse indicator.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If
Please
you're short term,
share with us when you make
I'm
next trade.
hoping that I'm only a reverse indicator for short term gains. I'm hoping.
Yeah, he was really pumping up FX out there earlier. I was like, okay.
Well, it's not tradable yet. So
yes, exactly. Okay,
I can say
okay.
can say whatever I want without ruining.
We're all
it.
good, gang. We're all good. We're all good.
But once the FFX is distributed and liquidity is out, if I say something nice, be careful.
I'm gonna put Kruger's tweets on alert now so that I can.
Yeah, it's a smart move. It's a smart move. All right. Well, listen, it is precisely 1 hour later. The snapshot voting window has closed, and the community call is pretty much set to end. So I guess we thank everybody for coming out and plan to meet here again the same time next week.
Sounds good. Yep. Well, I'll try to get some notes typed up, sent out. We'll get the booster info sent out as well. So everybody pay attention
kind
to
of-
Discord and Twitter and all that good stuff. And
Yeah, the official kickoff of the booster program, and yeah, it all looks good.
Yep. All right,
Okay.
everybody.
Let's talk soon. Bye now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.